So, welcome today, and I want to remind you that today our speaker is Mr. Mark Ruth. So you do get the truth from Ruth today at Wednesday, and you can enjoy all of that. What happens later tonight is a continuing class, a dancing class called Walk In, Dance Out, and it starts around 6:30, and I think they do the lesson part first, and then they do practice dancing. So I think it's a great fun time if that's something you really enjoy doing. And then we move forward to Saturday. Reverend Mary is continuing her class called Calling Holiness. What is it? Revealing. I kept starting to say restoring. That's what was in my head. Revealing Holiness is the name of her class. She uses the book Mind Over Medicine, and it is about what it sounds like, really, that you're allowing that holiness within to reveal itself through practices that you learn. And so she's continuing that class. It's on Saturdays. It's at 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. There's a flyer out there that won't forget any parts of the words in case you might as well. So then we move forward to Sunday, and we have our Sunday service at 11 o'clock, both on YouTube and here in the sanctuary. And we also have as our speaker, Reverend Mary Morgan, so you get maybe a little bit of wholeness in that particular talk as she plans it. There is also going to be, after services, we're having a leadership workshop. It's going to be in Richelieu Hall, and so just show up over there and talk about the things there's just so many things that we're trying to move forward with in this center. Some things this month, in the month of October, as well as in early November. She's going to share some of those things with those who want to be a part of everything, would like to provide leadership, volunteering opportunities, and any number of things in that way. As I said, there's a flyer. Also, there is the person of Reverend Valerie, who's sitting in the back right now, and she will be available in the foyer to answer any questions that you might have or even talk about it. So please consider that for Sunday at 12:30. And so then we move forward to Tuesday of next week, and that book reading that we're doing in Richelieu Hall, we call it Reverend Kathy's book reading, because she is the one that began this whole event in the foyer, and they are currently reading Giving God a Good Time. So it's there in the foyer. You just have to show up and with yourself and sit down and enjoy. We have a yoga class that's next door the following hour. Reverend Kathy's class is at 10. The yoga is at 11. It's useful if you show up with a mat and to be next door. It's more comfortable, and you can enjoy really a wonderful yoga class. I was there yesterday, and I'm always glad I came. So it's a wonderful experience. She's a lovely teacher. And we also are doing on Wednesday another Wednesday service. That is next Wednesday, and the speaker is Reverend Mary Morgan next Wednesday. So we've gone forward the full week, so we're just looking a little farther out, and we have the balance class is going to have a date, I think, today. They're having a meeting later today to come up with that date. So look forward to hearing about that, both in a foyer announcement as well as Sunday morning. Finally, just save the date right now for October 30th. We are organizing and planning yet a Halloween event, as much for the children in our center and those children that we attract that are coming in. We're going to have a costume contest for them, but we also might have some tarot card reading. We might have some really fun stuff, and church fast food. So we will just have a friendly gathering with as many things as we are able to put together reasonably by October the 30th. I'm looking forward to it, so I think it will be wonderful. And a reminder that we always appreciate everything that you give us, that you send us. We especially appreciate your financial donations. It's what keeps us going here in this center. But we also appreciate the messages about what you're thinking about and what's going on in your own mind. Those are important. They're important to me, and I know they're important to others in the running of this center. So thank you for those. Just a quick reminder about Amazon Smile, if you're not on that. It's useful, I think, to be reminded because I sometimes have to be reminded. I can go on Amazon and not think about Smile, and I'm already on there. And it's such a painless thing. I mean, whatever you order, we just get a little piece of it at no cost to the person who's actually doing it. It's really, really cool. It's win-win as far as I'm concerned. And so we let you know, we will, we do get money from it regularly. They're bits and pieces, but, everything contributes to the good, and we're glad that we have it. We have Dial a Prayer that's always available. Prayers change on Wednesdays, and it is 310-540-5242. And you can get that in a program, and it's a flyer at the desk if you choose to write that down. So thank you again for being here. And I am going to turn the spotlight over to Mr. Mark, who will open with a lovely prayer treatment.
Well, thank you, Reverend Catherine. I think with all those activities, it shows that we're a vibrant, living spiritual community that has a lot to offer everyone. So I welcome everyone that's here today and those watching on YouTube. I'd like to open with an opening prayer. I am inspired by the words of Ernest Holmes, founder of Science of Mind, in this thing called you. So please join me in consciousness as I go within. I take a deep, conscious, connected breath, recognizing and knowing that there is only one power, one creator, one energy, one God that is my source. I know that God is in me, through me, and as me. I am one with that power, that presence, and I know that I am part of all creation. This is my statement of truth. I know that every negative condition of the past is swept aside. I refuse to see or think about it. Yesterday is no longer here. Tomorrow has not yet arrived. Today is God's day. God's day is my day. Today, bright with hope and filled with promise, is mine. Today, my heart is without fear. I have implicit confidence in the good, the enduring, and the true. Today, I shall guard my thought and speech. I shall keep my consciousness steadfast with the realization that there is a spiritual power upon which I rely. I shall turn resolutely to that divine source which knows no confusion, to that spiritual center which knows no fear. Consciously, I draw close to my divine center, the source of all that is. I feel the warmth of its presence. Acknowledging good in all my ways, desiring only good for others, I rest in calm assurance. I open my consciousness to the realization that all power and presence there holds me in its eternal embrace. That spirit forever impart its life to me. I believe in myself because I believe in God. I have confidence in the future and enthusiastic expectation of good things to come. Therefore, I accept the fullness of life this moment. I give thanks for my spark of life, my consciousness and awareness. I'm grateful for the opportunity to open my mind and unfold my spirituality. This is the truth of my word, and I release it into the infinite creative medium, knowing that it is already so as I say, and so it is. Well, I always like those centering prayers because in my consciousness, it is a relaxing and calming influence. Because I know as I speak here today, I'm speaking the word of spirit, the word of truth, and I know I'm speaking to my friends and the people in this spiritual community who are loving, supportive, and nurturing, and I really appreciate that. My topic for today is a little interesting. I called it Coincidence or Not. And I looked at my journey in getting to this center and becoming a science of mind practitioner. And as I looked at that journey, I tried to look at some of the factors that got me here, and it made me ask the question, was this coincidence or not? There were two significant events in my life in the early 1990s that I feel impacted my journey and acceptance of science of mind. Now, I'm sure all of you have your stories of what brought you to this center. I know I love hearing one of the stories that someone was listening to the radio, moving the dials, and suddenly heard the former pastor, Dr. Frank Richelieu, and started listening to his message. And it intrigued that person so much that they drove all the way from Glendale to come down here, sit in the back of the church, listen to Dr. Frank, and was so enthralled with the message that Reverend Mary decided to stay. Now, in the men's group, sometimes we hear different stories. Well, I was dissatisfied with this. I didn't like that. My life was going to hell in a handbasket. I was searching for this. I was searching for that. And then I came here, and I felt safe. I felt people were listening. I felt supportive. And then they decided to attend services. So there are very many different stories and paths to coming to this center, but I'd like to explore my two, early 1990s. I'm coming out of a dysfunctional, contentious relationship that increased the anger inside of me. And I got to the point where I no longer liked myself. Just the anger was overwhelming. Fortunately, in a very short period of time, a wonderful, loving, caring, nurturing nurse, she appeared to me. And we started going out. And it was marvelous for the first couple of months, no problem. And then she started talking to me about some of her spiritual philosophies. And she informed me, she says, well, Mark, you're perfect. Whew. Now, I'm in my young 40s. I'm an attorney, fairly egotistical. And I go, yeah, I know I'm pretty good. But perfect? Ooh, I don't know if I can handle perfect. And, she pressed that point. And I just said, I just don't see it. Now, I'm going to shift gears a little bit here and quote from Ernest Holmes, okay? Ernest Holmes says in the textbook at page 177, spiritual man is perfect. We know, too, that to the degree in which we are able to see a perfect person, they will appear. We feel that the spiritual or real person is perfect, and we seek to uncover this perfection which is within everyone. Well, obviously, she was a person, a member of the Church of Religious Science from Huntington Beach. She never forced me to attend any services or anything else, but she had this wonderful, loving, caring philosophy. But I had a hard time buying into perfection. So the next thing she says to me is, well, Mark, you've never made a mistake. Once again, okay, I know I'm pretty good, but I said, no, I can think of this, I can think of that. The list started becoming overwhelming. I can think of a number of them. She says, well, let me ask you a question. I said, okay. She says, are you happy today? Whew. Got a good job. My family's good. I'm with you. I'm happy. So, she said, does that mean that every decision you made along the way, even what you consider to be mistakes, got you to this point? Yeah. So, was it a mistake or a learning experience? I thought those were nuances, couldn't handle it. However, Ernest Holmes, let me quote from him. Holmes says, in the Science of Mind text, page 290, suppose someone says, quote, I have made a lot of mistakes in my life. I had opportunities I did not grasp. This is a direct belief that there is but one opportunity which comes to man, and if they don't take it, they will have no more. This is a belief in limited opportunities, and it must be denied completely and specifically. He goes on. It is not that we have made no mistakes, but if the belief in the necessity of mistakes stays in the consciousness, then there is bound to be a repetition. It's a scientific practice to declare that there have been no mistakes in man's consciousness, and that if there have been, they are wiped out. Well, she didn't explain all of that to me. And even looking at that quote, there is a deeper meaning there to making no mistakes. It's having the consciousness of making no mistakes. Because if I continue to have a belief that I need to make mistakes in order to get better, what am I going to attract? A lot of learning experiences. You're going to get more mistakes. So on a deeper level, but I said, this lady is warm, loving, caring, nurturing, supportive, thinks I'm perfect, thinks I've made no mistakes. She's an alien. I can't relate to that. I'm out of here. Unfortunately, maybe it was another mistake, but in less than a year, I was gone. So the second event, almost simultaneously, that happened in the early 1990s, is I was the in-house attorney, the general counsel for the Caterpillar, the earth-moving dealership here in Los Angeles and Orange County. We had about 475 employees. And back in the late 80s and early 90s, lawsuits were becoming more and more prevalent with discrimination, harassment, all of that kind of stuff. And they said, well, Mark, you're an attorney. You become the director of HR. I said, well, I know a little bit about employment law, but I said, I don't know anything about running a personnel department. And I mean, they had like 3 people or so in the department. I said, okay, I'll do it. But the first thing I did was I hired a professional personnel manager, about 10 years older than I was. And this guy was fantastic. I mean, he taught me a lot of interpersonal skills. And the dealership expected that we would also train employees and management in interpersonal skills. Caterpillar had this program called Keeping Customers First. For some reason, they chose me, because now I'm head of HR, to go to Caterpillar's Train the Trainer. So I come back, I train other managers, and I also, because now I'm involved in management, I decide to read Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And so that was the second coincidence. Because as I started reading Covey, I got to the point where This is changing my thinking. He's presenting concepts that I never learned in law school, I generally didn't learn in life. And so I embraced Covey. Well, before Covey even got into his 7 habits, one of the things that he discussed was natural law and principles. Again, a quote, this time from Stephen Covey. These principles are part of most every major enduring religion, as well as enduring social philosophies and ethical systems. It's almost as if these principles or natural laws are part of the human condition, part of the human consciousness, part of the human conscious. They seem to exist in all human beings, regardless of social conditioning and loyalty to them. Well, that last little sentence there, regardless of social conditioning and loyalty to them, you don't even necessarily have to believe in those principles, and yet they could be affecting you. Later on, if I read you that quote, I could say this was from Ernest Holmes, and you'd believe it, because this concept is pretty much in line with science of mind and believing in natural laws and believing in principles. And we follow those science of mind principles. So I kept reading in Covey, and he has this concept, and he calls it a paradigm shift. Well, it took me a while to understand that, but Covey gives a pretty good definition of a paradigm shift. Another quote. You know, I used to do the great Karnak, so I feel sometimes like I'm channeling Johnny Carson here. But Covey says, but before we can really understand these 7 habits, we need to understand our own paradigms and how to make a paradigm shift. It means a theory, a perception, assumption, or frame of reference. It's the way we see the world in terms of perceiving, understanding, and interpreting. So I said, hey, yeah, I think I understand that. Now, he gives an example of a paradigm shift. Probably heard this story before, but the 2 battleships were out on maneuvers. It's foggy, cloudy, and everything else. And so suddenly one of the battleships sees a light, and kind of like heading right for the battleship. Captain tells the signalman, hey, signal that light that they have to diverge 20 degrees. Signalman says, change your course 20 degrees. Signal comes back from the light. You change your course 20 degrees. Whew. Captain's not happy. Hey, I'm a captain. Send this to that light. I'm a captain, and you need to change your course 20 degrees. Message comes back. I'm a 2nd grade seaman. You change your course 20 degrees. Captain's now furious. Send the signal that we are a battleship and you need to change your course 20 degrees. Message comes back. I'm a lighthouse. Captain instantaneously experienced a paradigm shift. His view of the world and what was happening suddenly changed. Okay? Now, in science of mind, we've heard the change your thinking, change your world. I think I have a quote from Ernest on that someplace. Holmes, Science of Mind, textbook, page 54. Change the consciousness and the false condition will disappear. False condition is that he had control over that light and he didn't. But once he changed his consciousness, it disappeared. That's a basic tenet of science of mind. So, Once again, I don't know any of this Ernest Holmes stuff in the mid-1990s. I'm just reading Covey. So, Covey does go on, and he explains, even before he gets to the 7 habits, some of his philosophies. And one of his philosophies is inside-out thinking versus outside-in. Once again, new concept to me back in the mid-90s. What is this guy talking about? And he's basically talking about the fact that things happen out there. And you let those things that happen out there control how you feel and what's going on. So from Covey, this new level of thinking is what 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is all about. It's principle-centered, character-based, inside-out approach to personal and interpersonal effectiveness. Inside out means to start first with self, to start with the most inside part of self, your paradigms, your character, your motives. Now, in Science of Mind, we probably say, and your underlying beliefs, whether conscious or unconscious. Because if we let external events control our emotions and how we react to those emotions, then we are not directing our lives. We're letting those external factors. The Science of Mind is replete with limitations, conditions. I imagine you've heard examples of, if you look at the stock market every day and it's down and you feel depressed, that's an external event that's controlling. If, on the other hand, you were leading life from the inside out, you would have the belief in abundance. And you wouldn't be negatively influenced by appearances and conditions. So, once again, that's Covey. Inside of Covey, he cites Viktor Frankl. Now, Viktor Frankl was the psychologist, the Jewish psychologist that was imprisoned in the Nazi concentration camps. And he partly developed the inside-out thinking because he could not let the horrible external events going on there affect him. He said, the one thing that they cannot affect is my mind and what is going on inside of me. So he comes up with the concept that, and I'll quote Viktor Frankl, between stimulus and response, man has freedom to choose. Well, this is a cornerstone of Science of Mind, freedom of choice. But when we look at that freedom of choice, many times that external stimulus, we don't respond to it. We react to it. Whatever comes into our mind, our behavior, wait a second. If there is that space of time of choice, someone out there is pushing your button and you're getting really angry and upset. Oh, wait a second. Did that person cause you to be upset? Or did you choose to respond to that circumstance with anger, anxiety, and upset? You had a choice. So part of Science of Mind is we want to respond to a situation. Instead of letting it immediately impact us, we want to think about it, take it in, and before we emotionally, negatively react, we do something better. Now, they say the Dalai Lama in an interview, he was asked, do you ever get angry? You ever get upset? Well, the Dalai Lama's been through a lot of horrendous things, murders of his monks and his nuns by the Chinese. And he goes, yes, I do get angry. Interviewer's a little shocked that one of the men considered to be one of the holiest guys on the planet gets angry. Follows up, well, what do you do about it? I think about it, and then I let it go. You think about it. Well, how long do you think about it? 10 to 12 seconds. Many of us carry on anger for many years. In that early 1990s, coming out of that dysfunctional relationship, got very angry. I didn't like it. But what it reminded me of was my ex-wife 10 years earlier, who also made me angry because I blamed both of these women. They don't understand. They don't listen to me. They don't care. They're not nurturing. They, you. I had a little paradigm shift by reading Covey. My paradigm shift was, hey, wait a second. Was it all them in that relationship? Or did it take two to tango? Did I have some responsibility to bear in those relationships? And I came to the conclusion, yeah, I did. And by making that paradigm shift, by seeing my world in a different perspective, that anger dissipated. I felt better about myself. I feel so good now about my ex-wife. I give her wine for Christmas. I let her watch, Monica and I let her watch our cat when we're gone, and she loves doing that. You know, we get together, all of the kids, grandkids, birthdays, holidays, everything else. And even that, I've invited her to join our poker club, which she's very good at. So that's a paradigm shift, which also gets you to responsibility. Once you have that freedom to choose, you have a responsibility. Whatever those circumstances are, those limitations, that negativity, that person who upsets you, pushing your buttons, you have a responsibility. And we always hear that term in one it's a personal responsibility. It's your personal responsibility, meaning, hey, I got to do something. But if you break it down, responsibility. I have the ability or the freedom of choice to choose how I'm going to respond to those circumstances. Now, those are a couple of the things, even before getting into the 7 habits, which I'm not going to do because he's laying all of this groundwork. So, I now flash forward to 1998, 7 years later, and I come and I listen to Dr. Frank, right here in the center, in his white suit, right here on this stage. And I was enthralled. I just was captivated, the message, his style, what have you. And I went out into the lobby, and Monica, my wife, happened to be with me. She wasn't my wife at the time. And I said, he's read Covey. No, yes, he probably did read Covey, and a lot more. It was just that I hadn't read Ernest Holmes. But I was so enthralled with the message. But now, instead of resisting and negating messages that I didn't even want to explore of, you've made no mistakes, you're perfect, all of this, I wanted to explore science of mind. And yes, there were some subjects, some topics that confused me initially. I mean, when I heard the word, your subjective mind, subjective, that's my personal opinion, right? Not in science of mind terms. Your subjective mind is that consciousness, that inner link with the one mind, the law. I hear the word law, and I'm a lawyer, and I go, I don't see any statutes or ordinances. Different concept. But boy, once I embraced those, I felt like, yeah, my journey has started in this spiritual community, and it progressed to even being a practitioner. So, in 1998, maybe the coincidence now comes full term, because I meet another warm, loving, nurturing woman who is a member of the Church of Religious Science, now known as the Centers for Spiritual Living, who's also in the medical profession, physical therapist, and I meet my lovely wife, Monica, in 1998 in March. This time, I'm open and receptive. And this time, I recognize immediately that in our conversation, she's a member of the Church of Religious Science, but I'm now ready to embrace not only that philosophy, but to embrace her. So meeting her in March of 1998, I proposed in July of 1998, and very fortunately, she said yes. We're still married to this day. So, as you look at your journey of what got you here, can you answer that question, coincidence or not? For me, it's not a coincidence. There's a divine urge going on where we want to open our spirituality and embrace our source. Holmes tells us that, page 288 of the text. Know that the greater abundance of every good thing which you are bringing out in your life, the more perfectly you are satisfying the divine urge within you. I am pleased with the journey. I'm not a big believer in coincidence, and this only reaffirms my belief that it is not coincidence. So I hope you have enjoyed your journey to this spiritual community as much as I've enjoyed mine. Thank you very much. At this point in time, part of the spiritual journey is the recognition of giving and supporting the center. And as we do so, we say our prayer. Divine love consecrates my gift, forth to heal, to bless, to prosper, all those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good, and I release my gift with love, and so it is. Thank you, Ruthie, for passing the donation bucket. Now, it's also at this time, I think we have some time left. Yeah, a little bit. That I can answer questions you may have about science of mind or other things that are on your mind. I don't know if I have all those answers, but I'm here to help. So if anyone has a question, Grant back there has the microphone so that we can all hear the question. And if I can't answer it, I'm sure Monica's here and she can. So. Get that smile off your face, okay? Okay, we have a question here.
Okay, got some.
What's the name of that book you were reading just before you got into Science of Mind?
By Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which you can find in our bookstore. It's there. I give it as gifts to the members of my family who are graduating high school. Probably I should give it again after they graduate college, and probably should give it again when they get married. It's that powerful of a book, in my opinion, and it helped me greatly in my transition to science of mind. And it was fun looking at it again and looking at some of those basic principles, because a lot of times I don't refer to them as 7 habits of highly effective people. I say, well, in science of mind, our teaching is. And I use his examples. Any other questions? No? Okay. So you all had a good journey getting here to this spiritual family? Yes? Okay, I see everyone nodding. Do you think it was just coincidence, happenstance, or do you feel that there was some urge getting you here? Grant's coming with the microphone.
Sorry about that. And the slacking.
Oh, thanks, Grant. Okay. Well, I was thinking about, how I ended up here or started here, which was a long, long time ago. I think it was like 45 years ago or something. Right?
Wow.
And it was interesting because I had been a Presbyterian, and I discovered when I moved to the South Bay that my brand of Presbyterianism was not what was being taught, And I thought, oh my God, I couldn't even stay through a sermon. I thought, oh, this is awful. I can't take it. So I don't mean that they were all that way, but where I went was. And so I happened to be working at a school in just at the edge of Watts, kind of like. And I had a colleague who was from Redondo Beach, which is really kind of unusual. There weren't that many people, South Bay teachers in the inner city. And I told her my dilemma, and she said, well, you should come to my church. I think you'd like it. And it was here. And when I came here, the first time I was here, I just thought, oh, this isn't like new stuff. This is what I believe. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm inside of me. This is, And then I thought, as you were talking, I thought, oh, that was a synchronistic thing, wasn't it? Because how did that woman and I happen to connect clear over there when we're both from here, and she pointed me here? So
Yes,
yeah,
very good.
that's what happened.
Yes. Yeah, it is. There are many, many paths. We all have our individual stories, and I just find it interesting from time to time to explore those with wonder that, wow, a lot of good things happened, and it came to a good, it hasn't come to a conclusion yet, but so far so good. All right, nothing else? Well, thank you very much for attending. I appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you here on Sunday. Thank you.